Hannah. I am one of the coordinators here at the Career and College Center at Washburn. This is going into my second year in this role, but I've been here for 4 years as the Project Success Facilitator. I've worked in college access before. Financial aid, FAFSA is kind of my favorite. I'm a nerd in that way, so ask questions. I love it when people stump me because that means I need something else to learn. So, thinking just like what financial aid means, it is essentially money to help you pay for college. That is done in a variety of different ways, but specifically through scholarships, grants, work study, and loans. We're going to talk about each of those throughout this PowerPoint, but there is a specific scholarship breakout session just down the hall if you want more of an in-depth look at scholarships specifically here at Washburn. So in order to get financial aid, we recommend that every student and their family fill out the financial aid application. That can be either the FAFSA or the Minnesota DREAM Act. You only fill out one.
Is it possible to fill out one?
What was that?
It's only possible to fill out one, or is it
It's only possible.
to?
It's only possible to fill out one. So if you are filling out the FAFSA, you are applying to receive federal and state aid for college. You are using a social security number or an I-94, also called a green card ID number, versus the Minnesota DREAM Act. That is to receive state aid for a college, and that is if you do not have a social security number or an I-94, so you are a DACA or a DREAMer individual. Both of these are required to receive grants, loans, work study, and institutional scholarships. A lot of families at Washburn, they might have an older child and they filled out a financial aid application and they didn't receive a lot of federal aid, so they're like, I'm not going to do it anymore. We still recommend families to do it, even if they're thinking they're not going to receive that much, because schools will look at it and might disperse some need-based school aid. And that wouldn't be maybe given if you hadn't done a FAFSA or DREAM Act. So kind of the steps that we tell students: first, apply to college. Figure out where you're applying, apply, submit. As you are doing that, families, you can start gathering your tax forms from the year 2021. That is the magical year. It can't be 2020, it can't be 2018, it has to be 2021. If students were working and they earned enough money to have to file taxes, they will also need tax forms from the year 2021. So as you are gathering that information, students and families can also create an FSA ID. This is only if you are filling out a FAFSA. The Minnesota DREAM Act has a different sort of account system. When you create an FSA ID, the student needs one and a family member needs one. The student will need it to fill out their FAFSA application. The parent will need one to sign the student's FAFSA information. You will then fill out the FAFSA. It's a process. There's just a lot of putting in info, tax document info, all of that. After you have completed and filled it out, you will then receive some sort of receipt. That receipt we like to call the SAR, or the Student Aid Report. On the Student Aid Report, there are two things that we kind of look for. By your name on your Student Aid Report, if there is an asterisk or a star, that means that something that you put in got flagged for verification. That sounds, ooh, scary, I did something wrong. It does not mean you did something wrong. It just means that the schools will probably be asking for a little bit more information. You can be flagged for verification for a variety of different things. Typically, it is like the number of people in your household and how much money you made. But it can sometimes be citizenship, it can sometimes be your name or something along those lines. We've kind of seen the gamut of it. The other thing that you will see on your student aid report is another big special number called your EFC, or your estimated family contribution. So this is an index number that goes from 0 to $999,999. We want that number to be as small as possible because that is the number schools use to figure out how much money your family can contribute to the student's education. And that number also helps colleges determine how much need-based aid they can provide. Once you fill out your FAFSA, one of the questions on there is what schools did the student apply to. That's information that then the FAFSA will send the FAFSA application to the schools, and that's how schools figure out their financial award letter. Colleges will start offering financial aid packages in the winter and spring, depending upon when you turn in your FAFSA. Most schools have a March 1st deadline. Right now, I know we're really in application deadlines, November 1st, December 1st, but also check when the financial aid timeline is, or the deadline. Because if you want to be eligible for scholarships and school institutional aid, you do have to fill out that financial aid application by a specific date. And then you make your final college decision by May 1st. So kind of what is all of the info that you need to fill out your financial aid application? Student social security number, student I-94 green card or DACA number, parent social security number if you have one, birthday. That's always a fun one, asking students, hey, when's mom and dad's birthday? And they have to send a text message really quick and ask. Marriage date, divorce date if applicable, and then the 2021 tax returns for the family or the student. Okay? We do have a checklist for all of these materials. I'll show you where that is housed on our Washburn CCC website. We also have paper copies in our CCC as well. So kind of the process, both for the FAFSA and the DREAM Act. FAFSA, you are going to go to FAFSA.gov. The acronym of FAFSA is Free Application for Federal Student Aid, so it does not cost money to file a FAFSA. There are unfortunately lots of scam sites like FAFSA.com, FAFSA.org that are charging people, and it's not real. So FAFSA.gov, when you create your FSA ID, it is tied to your social security number, so it's a pain in the butt to retrieve if you forget your username and password. We do have a worksheet to have students write down all of the information, and then people can keep that in a safe place in their homes. We typically advise with tax documents because you will be filing your FAFSA every year using the next year's tax documents. Minnesota DREAM Act, you apply using the Minnesota Office of Higher Ed. You apply only after you've gathered all of your financial forms because you have to do it all in one sitting. And you fill out that application every year you go to college as well. So just some tips we like to say. The FAFSA and Minnesota DREAM Act open October 1st. I was telling a student this and they were like, oh, so you mean this Saturday? And I was like, yes, this Saturday. It opens this Saturday. Fill it out as early as possible, but that doesn't mean you need to fill it out this Saturday. Like I said, keep track of the school's financial aid timelines. Erica and I, we typically advise if you can do it by winter break or during winter break, that usually is the best time to do it by. Another helpful tip, write your name exactly as it appears on your identification card. That might seem pretty intuitive, but we had about 20 students do that incorrectly last year. So if you have a hyphenated last name, or if you go by your middle name, don't put your middle name on there for your first name, go put your first name. I've spent many times on hold with FAFSA and Social Security to try and sort it out. So make sure you actually are putting what is on your ID. Yes?
When you mean ID, do you mean Social Security
Social
card?
Security card.
Okay.
Yep. Like I had said previously, don't be alarmed if you are selected for verification. You will get maybe a hint of it by that asterisk by your name on your student aid report. But also colleges' financial aid offices will be reaching out as well if you have verification materials to complete. So this is once again I'm talking to kind of the students in the room, check your email, because it typically will be sent via email and not through postal mail. And a lot of students sometimes miss those emails, and then they don't do verification, and then they miss out on some financial aid. For the FAFSA, your parents are only your legal parent and guardian. There are some specific instances that you can ask, like on the side basis for me, but it's your legal parent and guardian. Students are considered a dependent until they are 25. There are special circumstances in which a college might consider a student independent if they're highly mobile or was in the foster care system, but a student will be using parents' information throughout a 4-year bachelor's degree.
Does that dependent category, what if your tax form that you filled out, you did not include one of your children as a dependent?
That has nothing to do. So even if you are using the tax forms and that child that is doing the FAFSA is not a dependent, that is fine. They're not going to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
I may be jumping the gun on this question too, but we have one child who we did this for last year, who's just entering the second year.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you kind of need to do this for a separate form for both the parent and the student. So for the kid going into college this year, will there be 4 total things out there?
There should be 3.
Okay, one for each of the kids,
One
and we
for
get
each of
to
the
use the
kids,
same one.
and then
for-
the same one for that adult or legal guardian.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I was a little nervous that it was gonna tell me, oh, when I tried to enter my info, you're already in, so you
Yep.
you can't do this. And I go, well, it seemed to be kind of a hurdle.
No, you're using because there is a way for the parent's FSA ID to fill out the FAFSA for the student. It gets really confusing and a little glitchy in the system. So Erica and we always advise fill out the FAFSA under the student's FSA ID, and then the parent will just simply use their FSA ID to sign the FAFSA, if that makes sense. There are some colleges that ask you to fill out the CSS profile. This is essentially the FAFSA on steroids. Most of the schools that ask you to fill out a CSS profile are private schools. Schools that are somewhat familiar for families in the Twin Cities that use this are schools like St. Olaf, Carleton, McAllister, a lot of those private liberal arts colleges. The CSS profile asks more information that is in the FAFSA, like your mortgage, how much you pay in rent, that sort of stuff. You only have to fill it out once. And then if you are a family with parents that are divorced, both parents will have to fill it out.
What does it stand for, CSS?
That's a great question that I don't know. I don't know that.
Okay.
I will click on this link in a little bit to show you how you can find all of the schools that use the CSS profile. But once again, if a school does require it, they will show for the financial aid timelines, like the CSS profile is due by this date. And they also will be sending a lot of emails saying, do it. And then also, if you are planning to go to a school that has reciprocity with Minnesota, schools will also be prompting you to fill out a reciprocity form just to get all of that in order as well. So it is just kind of one step in the process of like college, planning, all of that. But typically it does jumpstart October, November, but we do FAFSAs with students all the way through the spring and even in the summertime. But it is kind of, the time to do it is October through winter break. Yeah.
If your kid is still trying to figure out what schools they're applying to,
Mhm.
does it make sense to do the FAFSA, and then is there an opportunity to have it sent to additional schools, or?
You can send it to up to 10 schools, and you can always change those schools. You just might have to take a school off. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that, like, let's just say you send it to 10 schools, you take it U of M off that list. U of M, if it has processed, it still is getting that information. And you just won't be getting information back from FAFSA about the U of M. So students who are applying to more than 10 schools, you can still send it to more. And you can always change it.
If you do add one along the way, is anything proactive you have to do to be sure that school gets it, or do they just kind of automatically trigger into
It
the?
automatically triggers.
Okay.
yeah.
It updates automatically on
Mhm.
its own and?
Yep. It might take like 24, 48 hours, but it does.
Okay.
So grants, that is something that you can receive by filling out a financial aid form. It is based on financial need. It is money you don't pay back. You want as many grants as possible. The federal Pell Grant, you can get a max of $6,895 for the upcoming school year. We also have the CEOG grant, which is for students who have exceptional need. Minnesota State Grant, that is only for Minnesota residents going to Minnesota schools. And then institutional grants, those vary by the school itself.
And do you apply for those?
That goes through the FAFSA
through the FAFSA,
and the
okay.
DREAM Act, yep. You will be eligible for work study as well if you fill out a financial aid application. This is kind of the big thing, like a lot of families think like they're not gonna be eligible so they don't do the FAFSA, but that means then you're also not eligible for work study. It is not given money, you have to earn it by working on campus. It is given by the schools and the state. Students have to be the ones seeking those jobs. And finding them, applying for them, but there's usually a plethora of jobs that students can apply and get. And then we also have loans. We recommend, if a student or family prefers to take out a loan, the federal loans are the best because they do have the lower interest. There is the subsidized versus the unsubsidized. So the subsidized means that interest does not accrue while you are in school. A credit check is not required. And then the unsubsidized is interest accrues while you are in school. And once again, credit check is not required. Those two loans will be under the student's name. Sometimes we also see Parent Plus loans on financial aid award letters. That is a loan that is under the parent's name for educational expenses. It is not a guarantee. The parent has to apply for the Parent Plus loan, and a credit check is required for that. Like I said, there will be a scholarship breakout session if you choose to attend one of those, but they're awarded on a variety of different things. Just to manage some expectations, more scholarships are given through the institution itself versus independent or private scholarships. Go through that. So one thing that we always like to share is we want to support students and families in any way that we can. Every Thursday, starting in October through the end of the year, we offer financial aid Thursdays during 5th and 6th hour. Students can sign up for those in Naviance. And essentially what that is students are creating an FSA ID with myself and Erica. If they are bringing in the tax forms to school or have an electronic copy, we can help students fill out that FSA ID with us, or that FAFSA as well. We also host financial aid nights. The first one is on November, it's the end of November. I don't know the date offhand, but it is on our calendar. And that's when we have a ton of folks who are who are an expert on the FAFSA and DREAM Act, helping students and families fill it out. We also have language support for that. We also do one in the spring as well in like March. And then we also do individual appointments. If a student is unable to make financial aid Thursdays during 5th and 6th hour, they can make an individual appointment with us. Families are always able to join if they want or desire. And I'll show you where students can fill out a request form as well. So, on the Washburn website, you find our Washburn CCC website. If you go to Counseling and then Career and College Center, you click on Website. And then we have a ton of different things under the Financial Aid tab. So if you click on FAFSA, here is the FSA ID worksheet. So this is what we encourage students and families filling out so they know exactly their username and password, so they can use that every single year to log back in, don't have to be on the phone or reset a password at all. We also have a checklist for all of the materials that you need. When students are making an appointment or doing financial aid Thursdays, we always send the student this checklist so they know what is expected of them to bring, so they can successfully complete that FAFSA or Minnesota DREAM Act. The other thing that we always like to share with students, under scholarships, we have the Washburn Scholarship Spreadsheet. This is a living, breathing document of all scholarships that Washburn students have applied to and actually gotten. As you scroll, the scholarships that have passed are crossed out. We have the criteria of who is eligible, a description, the amount, links, and then the date that it is due. So it makes it a little bit easier for students and families to look and find scholarships. Scholarships that are in pink, that means that the application isn't updated from last year. Erica and I update it every Friday, so continue to check as you are kind of searching for those scholarships. And then lastly, I did want to click on here. If you click on the CSS profile, this PowerPoint will be on our website. This is more information on the CSS profile as well as a list of all of the schools that require it. So if you maybe want to compare your list of colleges to the list of schools that ask for a CSS profile, this would be the place to do it. It is 6:55. I'm thinking we're going to be getting a notice for the next round, but if anyone has any questions, you can ask out loud or you can ask me on the side. I hope this was helpful for everyone. And if you do have any questions, you can always email me or Erica. We would love to help you out, help your student out, get a financial aid award letter.